I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about where you feel safest in your home. For most people, the answer is somewhere warm, familiar, private. Maybe it's your living room. Maybe it's your bedroom. But for millions of people, the answer is the bathroom. Specifically, the shower. That warm water, that steam, that quiet ritual you've performed thousands of times. It feels like the most harmless thing in the world, and that's exactly why it's killing people. I'm Dr. Charles Bennett, and I've spent over 2 decades working in cardiovascular medicine. I've sat beside patients in hospital beds, held the hands of families in waiting rooms, and reviewed case after case after case where the sequence of events was almost identical. Someone woke up feeling fine. They went to take a shower, and they never made it out safely. The statistics on this are not comfortable, but I need you to hear them, because they contain something remarkable hidden inside them. Cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, dangerous arrhythmias, that occur in or immediately around the shower are, according to cardiovascular research and public health data, approximately 80% preventable. 80%. That means the vast majority of these tragedies are not bad luck. They are not fate. They are the result of specific, identifiable, changeable habits. Habits that most people have never once been warned about. Today, I am going to walk you through 5 of those habits. And by the time we're done, you will never look at your morning shower the same way again. Not out of fear, but out of understanding. Because knowledge is not frightening. Ignorance is frightening. Knowledge is power. Now, before we get into the specific habits, I need you to understand why the shower is uniquely dangerous for people over 60. This isn't about being fragile. This is about biology. Pure, undeniable physiology that changes as we age, whether we acknowledge it or not. After the age of 60, several things happen to the cardiovascular system that fundamentally alter how your body responds to the environment of a shower. First, the heart's ability to rapidly accelerate and decelerate becomes less reliable. A 30-year-old heart can rev up and slow down almost like a sports car engine, smoothly, responsively, instantly. An aging heart is more like a well-maintained older vehicle. It can still get you where you need to go, but it doesn't respond to sudden demands with the same speed or grace. Second, the blood vessels, particularly the endothelium, which is the delicate inner lining of every blood vessel in your body, loses its elasticity over time. The endothelium is not just a passive pipe. It is an active, living tissue that regulates blood flow, responds to temperature, controls blood pressure, and releases chemicals that keep your blood moving safely. When the endothelium ages, it becomes stiffer, slower to respond, and far more vulnerable to the kinds of rapid changes that a shower can create. Add to that the environment of the shower itself. Intense heat, rising steam, the body in a standing position, blood redistributing under the influence of gravity and temperature, and often a person who hasn't eaten, hasn't hydrated, and is standing on a slippery surface, and what you have is not a comforting ritual. What you have is a perfect storm. So let's talk about the 5 habits at the center of that storm. Habit number 1, showering with water that is far too hot. I know how good it feels. After a cold night, or a stiff morning, or a day of aching joints, stepping into water that is almost scalding can feel like the most therapeutic thing imaginable. The tension leaves your shoulders, the muscles unknot, the warmth spreads through your whole body, and you exhale. It feels like healing. But here is what is actually happening inside your cardiovascular system at that moment, and I want you to picture this clearly. Your body is covered in blood vessels, millions of them, from the large arteries near your heart all the way down to the tiny capillaries just beneath your skin. When hot water hits your skin, your nervous system triggers a process called vasodilation. That word simply means the blood vessels widen, and the reason they widen is to bring warm blood to the surface of the skin so that your body can release heat and prevent your core temperature from rising dangerously. Now think of your circulatory system as a network of roads. When those roads suddenly widen, all at once, across a huge portion of your body, the blood that was filling those narrower roads is now spread thin across a much larger space. The pressure inside those vessels drops. Suddenly, blood pressure falls, sometimes rapidly, sometimes dramatically. Your heart notices this immediately. It receives a chemical signal. Emergency. Blood pressure is dropping. Compensate now. And what does the heart do? It speeds up. For a healthy 35-year-old, this happens smoothly. The heart rate climbs, pressure stabilizes, balance is restored. But in a person over 60, especially anyone with any degree of existing cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure history, or arterial stiffness, this compensation is not smooth. The heart can spike by 30 to 40 beats per minute in a very short window. If you started at a resting heart rate of 70, you may suddenly be at 100, 110 beats per minute. Not because you're exercising, not because you chose to push yourself, but because you turned on hot water. I use what I call the old engine analogy when I explain this to my patients. Imagine you have a car that's been running reliably for 70 years. It drives beautifully at a steady pace. Now imagine someone suddenly flooring the accelerator to full speed without any warning, any warm-up, any gradual transition. The engine doesn't fail because it's bad. It fails because it was pushed to maximum speed without being asked. Water above 40 degrees Celsius, that's 104 degrees Fahrenheit, consistently produces this dangerous cardiovascular response. And I need to tell you about a patient of mine. He was 71 years old, retired engineer, sharp mind, physically active for his age. He came to see me after what was, in retrospect, a warning event. He told me that one morning he had taken what he described as a long, really hot shower. He said it felt wonderful. He got out, dried off, sat down for coffee, and approximately 2 hours later he suffered a significant myocardial infarction, a heart attack. When we reviewed his history, the picture was clear. The prolonged hot shower had created a sustained period of cardiovascular stress, the kind that doesn't always present itself dramatically in the moment, but that can be the final stressor that pushes an already compromised coronary artery into crisis. He told me, "I felt completely relaxed. I felt great." And that is the cruelest part of this habit. The very reason you love hot showers, the deep relaxation they produce, is a physiological response that can mask the stress your heart is experiencing. Here is your rule. If your skin is turning bright red, if the room fills with heavy steam within the first few minutes, if you feel flushed, or your heart is noticeably racing, the water is too hot. Full stop. We will talk about the right temperature shortly. Habit number 2. Sudden temperature changes. What I call the electric shock. In the past several years, a particular trend has swept across health and wellness communities online. Cold showers, cold plunges, alternating hot and cold, promoted as everything from metabolism boosters to longevity hacks. And I want to be very careful here, because for certain populations and in controlled contexts, there is genuine research supporting cold exposure. But I also need to be equally clear about something. The unguided practice of switching abruptly from a hot shower to cold water is, for many people over 60, genuinely dangerous. Here's the physiology. You've been standing in warm water. Your blood vessels are dilated. Blood is pooled toward the surface of your skin. Your heart has adjusted to this state. Now you suddenly switch to cold water. What happens in your body is almost violent in its speed. The cold triggers an immediate, powerful vasoconstriction, the opposite of vasodilation, where your blood vessels clamp down rapidly and forcefully. Blood is driven away from the skin and back into the core. The pressure inside your blood vessels spikes, sometimes dramatically in a matter of seconds. Simultaneously, your adrenal glands release a surge of adrenaline, the same hormone that floods your system when you experience sudden fear or shock. For your endothelium, that fragile inner lining of your blood vessels that I described earlier, this rapid transition from dilation to constriction is genuinely traumatic. Stiff, aging vessel walls do not accommodate these pressure spikes the way younger, more elastic vessels do. The risk of a hemorrhagic stroke, where a blood vessel in the brain ruptures under pressure, increases. The risk of a dangerous cardiac arrhythmia, an abnormal heart rhythm, increases. For anyone with existing plaques in their coronary arteries, this kind of pressure surge can cause one of those plaques to rupture, triggering a heart attack. I had a patient, a 68-year-old woman, active, health-conscious, genuinely disciplined about taking care of herself, who came to me after what she described as the most frightening experience of her life. She had read an article online about the benefits of ending your shower with cold water. She followed the advice exactly as described. Switched from hot to cold in her shower. Within seconds, she felt a crushing sensation in her chest, a wave of dizziness, and a ringing in her ears so loud she said it sounded like an alarm. She managed to sit down on the shower floor. She was lucky. When I reviewed her cardiac workup afterward, the evidence of what had happened was unmistakable. She had experienced a severe vasospastic event. Her coronary arteries had gone into spasm from the shock of that temperature change. She said to me, "I was just doing what a health article told me to do." And that broke my heart, because she had done everything right by her own understanding. She had sought out health information. She had tried to implement it. And the information she had found simply was not written with her cardiovascular age in mind. The principle here is not that temperature is the enemy. The principle is that abruptness is the enemy. Your aging cardiovascular system can adapt to many things, but it needs time, and it needs gradual transitions. We are going to talk about how to do that safely. Habit number 3, staying under the shower for too long. This one surprises people because it seems so passive. You're not doing anything dangerous. You're just standing there. How can standing in warm water be harmful? Let me explain the cumulative stress principle. The cardiovascular adjustments your body makes in a hot shower, the vasodilation, the elevated heart rate, the thermoregulation effort, are not static. They are ongoing. Every minute you remain under that warm water, your body continues to work to manage your core temperature. That's not a problem for the first few minutes, but as time extends beyond roughly 10 minutes, several compounding processes begin to accumulate. First, there is the question of gradual dehydration. Warm showers cause you to sweat, even when you're surrounded by water. You may not feel it, but your body is losing fluid through perspiration. As fluid leaves the body, your blood becomes more concentrated, more viscous, thicker. Thicker blood is harder to pump. Thicker blood is more prone to clotting, and for a cardiovascular system that's already working harder than normal just to manage the shower environment, this added resistance matters. Second, there is what I call blood pooling in the lower body. The combination of standing upright and sustained vasodilation causes blood to accumulate in the legs and the peripheral circulation. Blood that is sitting in your legs is not circulating through your brain. Over time, this can reduce cerebral perfusion, the flow of oxygenated blood to the brain, to a degree that produces dizziness, lightheadedness, and in serious cases, syncope, which is fainting. A fainting episode in a shower on a wet surface with no one nearby is extraordinarily dangerous. But here is the moment I want you to pay particular attention to, because it is the most dangerous moment of the entire shower, and most people have no idea. Stepping out. When you step out of the shower, you move from a warm, humid environment into a cooler room. Your blood vessels, which have been dilated to manage heat, now need to rapidly constrict again. Your blood pressure, which has been running lower due to vasodilation, needs to normalize. Your heart rate, which has been elevated, needs to adjust. All of this must happen simultaneously while you are standing upright, while your body is in a state of mild dehydration, while your blood may be slightly thicker than normal. This is the moment when cardiovascular events most commonly occur. The safe limit for shower duration, particularly for anyone over 60, is 5 to 7 minutes under warm water. I realize that may feel brief, but your heart will thank you. Habit number 4. Showering at the wrong time, what I call the hidden trigger. Your body is not the same at 6 in the morning as it is at noon. This is not a trivial observation. It is a fundamental property of human physiology, governed by what scientists call your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour biological clock that regulates your cardiovascular system, your hormones, your blood pressure, and dozens of other functions. In the early morning hours, particularly between 6 and 10 a.m., blood pressure naturally rises. Cortisol levels peak. The blood is at its most concentrated after a night without fluid intake. Platelet activity, the clumping behavior of blood cells that forms clots, is at its highest in the morning hours. These are the reasons why, across decades of cardiovascular research, the morning hours represent the highest risk window for heart attacks and strokes. The shower in the early morning adds its own cardiovascular demands on top of an already elevated baseline. Now compound this with an empty stomach. When blood sugar is low, blood pressure tends to be lower as well. A person who wakes up, skips water, skips breakfast, and immediately steps into a warm shower is combining low blood sugar, low blood pressure, morning cardiovascular stress, and the vasodilatory effects of heat, all at once. This is a particularly dangerous combination because each factor individually would be manageable, but together they create a compounding vulnerability. On the opposite end, showering immediately after a heavy meal carries its own serious risk. After eating, your body redirects a significant volume of blood to the digestive organs, the stomach, the intestines, the liver, to support the process of breaking down and absorbing food. This is a normal and healthy process, but it is a demanding one. When you add a warm shower on top of active digestion, your cardiovascular system now faces a genuine tug of war. It is being asked to simultaneously manage the heat load of the shower, which pulls blood toward the skin's surface, and the digestive demand, which pulls blood toward the abdominal organs. The heart works harder, blood pressure becomes less stable, and the risk of a cardiovascular event climbs. My recommendation, and the one I give every patient over 60, is the 1-hour rule. Wait at least 1 hour after any substantial meal before showering, and in the morning, before anything else, before the shower, before breakfast, drink a full glass of water. That single habit addresses more cardiovascular risk factors than most people realize. Habit number 5. Standing too fast and the dehydration connection. The final habit brings together everything we've discussed and focuses it on what I consider the single most underestimated danger in the entire showering experience: orthostatic hypotension. Orthostatic hypotension is a medical term that simply means a drop in blood pressure that occurs when you move from a lower position to a standing one, or when you remain standing in one place for an extended time. And in the context of a shower, it creates what I call a 10 to 15 second danger zone. Here is what happens physiologically. When you are standing in a warm shower, blood has pooled in your legs and peripheral circulation. The moment you step out, or even the moment you move to stand up straighter or shift position, gravity continues to pull blood downward, while your blood pressure, already somewhat suppressed by the vasodilatory effects of the shower, must rapidly rise to push blood upward to your brain. In a young, well-hydrated person with elastic blood vessels, this adjustment happens almost instantly. In a person over 60, especially someone who is mildly dehydrated after a long shower, the adjustment can take 10 to 15 seconds. And during those 10 to 15 seconds, the brain is receiving less oxygenated blood than it needs. The result is that sudden darkness at the edge of your vision, that feeling that the room is tilting, that strange lightheadedness that you may have experienced and dismissed as just a moment. That is your brain telling you it is briefly starved of blood. And if you are standing on a wet surface, on aging legs without support, what comes next is a fall. And falls for people over 60 are not small events. They are frequently catastrophic. And if a stroke accompanies the fall, because a blood clot formed in that thickened blood and traveled to the brain at exactly the wrong moment, the consequences can be devastating. Dehydration makes every part of this worse. Thicker blood is slower to redistribute. Vessel walls that are not adequately hydrated are stiffer. The cardiovascular system, already working hard, has fewer resources to compensate. The safe shower protocol. I have spent this entire time telling you what not to do. Now I want to spend time telling you exactly what to do, because this is not a script about fear. This is a script about empowerment. And here is your protocol. Before you ever step into the shower, there are 3 things to address. Drink 1 full glass of water. Not after. Not during. Before. Hydrating pre-shower prepares your blood to maintain its proper viscosity and supports your blood pressure stability throughout the experience. Then check your timing. Is it early morning? Have you just eaten? If the answer to either question is yes, adjust accordingly. Wait the hour after a meal. In the morning, give yourself time to eat something small, hydrate, and let your body fully wake up before adding the cardiovascular demands of a shower. And prepare your environment: a non-slip mat on the floor, a shower chair if you use one, a grab bar within reach. During the shower, the target water temperature is between 35 and 38 degrees Celsius. That's 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Warm, comfortable, pleasant, but not hot enough to trigger the full vasodilation response we discussed. Enter the water gradually, starting with your feet and lower legs, giving your vessels a moment to begin adjusting before the full body is exposed. Keep the total duration between 5 and 7 minutes, and pay attention to your body with genuine discipline. Dizziness, nausea, a feeling of pressure in your chest, unusual shortness of breath. Any of these is a signal to end the shower immediately, carefully, and sit down. The exit is its own protocol. In the last 60 seconds of your shower, reduce the water temperature slightly. Not cold, just slightly less warm. This begins the process of vasoconstriction gently rather than abruptly. When you turn off the water, do not immediately step out. Stand still inside the shower space for approximately 30 seconds. Let your body begin its pressure adjustment before you introduce the additional challenge of stepping out and moving into a cooler room. When you do step out, do so slowly and with your hand on a grab bar or stable surface. And then, and this is the step that I find most people resist, but that may be the single most important part of the entire protocol, sit down to dry off and dress. I know this seems unnecessary. I know it feels like an accommodation you don't need yet. But the act of sitting down after exiting the shower resolves the orthostatic hypotension risk almost entirely. It removes gravity as a threat. It gives your cardiovascular system the time it needs to restabilize without the risk of a fall if dizziness occurs. Sit on the edge of the bed. Sit on a bathroom chair. Sit somewhere. Dry yourself sitting. Begin dressing sitting. When you are ready to stand, use what I call the 3-stage stand-up. While seated, move your feet and ankles. Rotate them, flex them. Do 10 small circles. This activates the muscles in your calves, which act as a pump for the blood pooled in your lower legs, pushing it back toward your heart and brain before you stand. Then pause for 5 seconds at the edge of your seat. Feet flat on the floor, body upright, hands ready to push from the surface. Then rise slowly, keeping one hand on a stable surface until you are confident you are steady. This is your protocol. It is not complicated. It does not require special equipment or significant life changes. It requires awareness, a few additional minutes, and the willingness to respect what your body is telling you. I want to close with something personal, because I think you deserve more than just clinical information at the end of a conversation like this. I have seen what cardiovascular events do to people and to families. I have sat across from spouses who lost partners without warning. I have worked with patients who survived strokes and were never quite the same again. And I have also, and this is what keeps me going, seen what education does. I have watched patients who received the right information make small, consistent changes, and who are still here, still vital, still living the lives they love, years later, because they knew what to watch for. Aging does not have to mean declining. Your heart is remarkable. It has beaten over 2 billion times before this moment. It deserves to be understood, respected, and protected. The bathroom should be a place of comfort. It can be, if we go in with awareness. If this information matters to you, if you have someone in your life over 60 who you love and want to protect, share this with them. And I want you to make a commitment right now. Type the words "safe shower" in the comments below. Not for me, for yourself. Because that small act of intention is the beginning of the habit change that might one day save your life. I'm Dr. Charles Bennett. Take care of your heart, protect your brain, and make your next shower your safest one.